Right, g'day everyone. Welcome to Macbeth Act 1, Scene 3. So, just to recap, we've met the witches, they got the opening scene. Then we get a introduction to Macbeth through the captain or the sergeant's description of his courageous and very bloody fight. And now we get to Act 1, Scene 3, which opens with the witches. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on this part. Here the witches are just catching up with each other and talking about the evil deeds they've done, such as killing things. One witch has cursed a sailor and to get revenge on his wife that wouldn't give him a chestnut, wouldn't give the witch chestnut. And so we really get a sense that these are fairly evil characters. And then they get interrupted because Macbeth is here. And that's why they are on this barren heath to meet with Macbeth and put into action their plan. So remember, at the start of the play, they had talked about meeting Macbeth and putting into action a plan. So this is where it starts. And the third witch says, a drum, Macbeth doth come. So again, we get that chant-like rhythm and rhyme happening. Now, Macbeth is coming home from the battle. He's coming home with his best friend, Banquo. And he says to Banquo, so foul and fair a day I have not seen. So remember, right at the start of the play, the witches closed out Act 1, Scene 1 with foul as fair and fair as foul. Well, there's an echo of that here, where everything is not as it seems. So good things are bad and bad things are good. Foul and fair. So it is both good and a bad day. And so Banquo keeps talking here, and then Banquo stops. He sees the witches. What are these so withered and so wild in their attire that look not like the inhabitants of the earth, and yet are on it? So they don't look like real things. And then he asks them, live you, or are you aught that man may question? You seem to understand me. So he's saying that he's asking, do you live? Are you real? Can you understand me? And they do. The first witch makes a prophecy. So this is really important. This is where we get the first set of 3 prophecies that come to Macbeth. And we get some prophecies for Banquo as well. And they're in sets of 3. So this number 3 keeps coming again and again in the play. We've got 3 witches. We've got sets of 3 prophecies. All hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Glamis. So Thane of Glamis, or Lord of Glamis, that is Macbeth's current title. So one way to think about this first witch could be the witch of present. Witch of the past. Second witch, all hail Macbeth, hail to thee, Thane of Cawdor. So remember, Cawdor was one of the rebellious lords, and King Duncan rewards Macbeth with the title of Thane of Cawdor. But Macbeth doesn't know this yet. So this is a prediction for the present. And then the third witch, all hail Macbeth, that shalt be king hereafter. So this witch is prophesizing that Macbeth shall be king. Now Banquo is the one who responds here, which is interesting because the witches are addressing Macbeth. Good sir, why do you start and seem to fear things that do sound so fair? So Banquo is watching Macbeth, and Macbeth is entranced. He's really engaged by these witches and the things they're saying that he can't speak yet. And then Banquo says, well, you gave some prophecies to my friend Macbeth here. How about you give me some prophecies? And so the first witch says, hail, hail, hail. Here's the first prophecy for Banquo. Lesser than Macbeth and greater. I mean, what does that mean? Again, all the way through here, the witches are obfuscating with their chants and predictions. Lesser than Macbeth and greater. So we've got things that are seemingly opposite. Second witch, not so happy, yet much happier. And then the third witch, thou shalt get kings. So that means that Banquo's descendants, his children or his children's children, will be kings. And just to connect with context, it's thought that King James, remember King James was also the King of Scotland. After Queen Elizabeth died, King James becomes the King of England also. It's thought that his relative was Banquo. And so here's Shakespeare giving a little bit of a nod to King James's relatives and adding to his legitimacy of the throne, because that was a key concern of King James when he took over from Queen Elizabeth. All right, so thou shalt get kings, so your descendants shall be kings, though thou be none. So you won't be king, but your children or your children's children will be king. So all hail Macbeth and Banquo. Banquo and Macbeth hail, all hail, and then the witches leave. And Macbeth goes after them. He says, stay, don't go away. You imperfect speakers. Imperfect speakers means that they haven't told everything yet. And so Macbeth is aware that they are obfuscating their language. Tell me more. By Sinel's death, I know I am Thane of Glamis, but how of Cawdor? The Thane of Cawdor lives, a prosperous gentleman, and to be king stands not within the prospect of belief, no more than to be Cawdor. Say from whence you own this strange intelligence. So he's really pushing them to tell more about this. And then Banquo notices that, whither are they vanished? They've gone. Macbeth, into the air, and what seemed corporal, so what seemed real, melted as breath into the wind. Would they had stayed. So would they had stayed means he wanted them to stay because he wanted to learn more. And so his ambition is really caught here. We'll skip through here a little bit. Now we've got Ross. He's another nobleman and messenger from the king. He's coming with news that Macbeth has been, in essence, promoted and has earned the title of Thane of Cawdor. So remember, Cawdor was one of the rebellious lords, and Macbeth doesn't know yet that he is being promoted, that he's got this title. And so here is Ross telling Macbeth that he is now Thane of Cawdor as well. And Banquo notices, what, can the devil speak true? So Banquo is aware that these witches are not good creatures. Macbeth says, the Thane of Cawdor lives. Why do you dress me in borrowed robes? Now, here's this idea of clothing and wearing clothing that's not yours comes up again and again throughout the play as well. So he says he's not the Thane of Cawdor. That's their borrowed robes, their borrowed clothing. But they tell him that, no, you're actually Thane of Cawdor now, so that you're Glamis and Thane of Cawdor. And so Macbeth now starts thinking. So this is what aside means, that Macbeth is thinking, of course, out loud to himself so that the audience can hear him. But there are other characters on stage and they can't hear him. This is how one of the methods that Shakespeare used to help the audience get inside the character's head. So he's now thinking, so Glamis and now Thane of Cawdor, the greatest is behind. And then he talks to Ross and Angus. He thanks them. So now he's thinking that, well, the witches were right about Cawdor. Maybe they're going to be right about being king. And he says to Banquo, do you not hope your children shall be kings, when those who gave the Thane of Cawdor to me promised no less to them? So Macbeth is kind of bouncing his ideas off of Banquo here. So now here Banquo says, yeah, if you trust what they say, basically, then you might become king. But here he says, this is the key thing. But it is strange, and oftentimes to win us to our harm, the instruments of darkness tell us truths. So Banquo is not so naive here, and not as driven by ambition as Macbeth. So he realizes that these evil things, the witches, they might want to do us harm, and to do so, they'll start off by telling us some truths, and then lead us on into betrayal. So, and he will us with honest trifles to betray us in deepest consequence. So that later on, the later on prophecies will actually cause really severe and dark consequences, which of course we know happens to Macbeth. It's a tragedy. But Macbeth is thinking, and he's already thinking here, that he's got one success. He's one success. He's the Thane of Cawdor. And now he's starting to think some evil thoughts already. Whose horrid image doth unfix my hair? So he's thinking, oh, this is a horrible premonition. Because, of course, he's thinking about killing the king. That's the fastest way to get there. My thought, whose murder is yet done, fantastical, shakes so my single state of man, that function is that in some eyes and nothing is but what is not. So again, this idea of contrasts and obfuscating language. Now Banquo notices how odd, or maybe how thoughtful, rapt he's in a daze that Macbeth is, and that's because he's thinking, well, if chance will have me king, why chance may crown me without my stir. Without my stir means killing the king. That's his stir. Without taking action, he might become king anyway. So that's where Macbeth leaves it now. He's already aware that one way to become king is to murder the king, is to engage in dishonorable acts. But at the moment, he's thinking, well, maybe chance or luck or fortune will have me be king without me doing anything. And so that's where he leaves off at the moment. All right, that's it for Act 1, Scene 3. And we'll pick up with Act 1, Scene 5 next. All right, thanks everyone.